Good afternoon, everyone.
Good afternoon.
There we go. I really need participation, all right, or this is not going to go well. All right, my name is Mark Ridgway. I am the husband of Sherry Ridgway, if you haven't figured that out yet. Not too many Ridgways running around in here. I'm a master resilience instructor for the military. A lot of us have family members that currently serve or have been serving or have retired from the military. So this was a perfect fit, and I thank you for the opportunity to come here and talk to you about resilience. Resilience is a crazy word. A lot of people hear that and they're thinking all kinds of things. It's a crazy word. What I like to talk about resilience is real world stuff. We're not going to get into any big words or big definitions of resilience. We're talking down and dirty type resilience to help you get through your day-to-day life and to help you become a more optimal performer, whether it's at work or at home or at play. All right, does that sound good, everybody?
Yes.
Okay, so once again, I am a master resilience instructor. I have been doing this since 2012. I've been in the military since February of 1988. So I've been through and done a lot of stuff in my career. I've also been a civilian. For a while I was in the reserve components, and I worked for Honeywell as one of their operations managers. So I've dealt in the big corporation world as well and dealt with what kind of goes on in the businesses and stuff. So it's, we have those moments in life when we're just not so resilient or we have never been, and we're thinking, wow, how do these people that go through life, and you see them, you're like, how do they have that? Why are they always resilient? Why aren't things always good no matter how bad it is? And a lot of people seem to think that that's something they were born with, when in actuality they were not. It's a set of skills that they've honed over time that they learned either as children, as they were growing up, from their parents, friends, and other family members, or someone that was just close in their life, or that they learned as they got older and put it into their skill set. And a lot of people truly believe that. They think either you have it or you don't. Well, the reality of it is everybody has it, you just don't know it. So that's where we're going to get to today. I'm going to cram about 40 hours of instruction and training into 60 minutes of familiarization. So a little bit more about me real quick and we'll get right into it. Of course, I'm married to Sherry. We're coming up on 3 years, August the 9th. So, hey, I can answer that, man. Let me take care of that because I don't want to get in trouble when we get home. So, we've been together almost 10 years. We have kids. I have kids from previous marriage. She has a daughter from a previous marriage. So we're rocking a bunch of adult children and 3 grandchildren. Like many of you, we've been through our ups and our downs in lives and our trials and tribulations. And sometimes this training can get a little bit emotional when people are talking, if you're sharing or anything like that. So I ask you to have an open mind and stuff as we go through, because I will share some of my stuff that I've been through as we talk about these skills and things of that nature. So, and if you want to share as well, understand that hopefully this is a safe area for people when they get to share. I say it is with me, and whatever we talk about here stays here as we go through, unless you want to share. So, yes, ma'am.
Camera. Doesn't stay here.
Yeah, it's that. All right, so we are recording this. Hi, everybody that doesn't get to be here. So it doesn't necessarily get to stay here, but if you do share, understand that it's that there's no judgment at least going on right here in this classroom. So resilience. Anybody want to tell me in their words what you think resilience is? Yes, ma'am.
You can face anything.
You can face anything.
It doesn't matter what the situation is, you're ready.
You're always ready,
Yeah,
no matter what.
yeah.
Anybody else?
That you bounce back.
You bounce back. Yeah. Anything else? All right, so basically that's it. I'm going to give you the technical definition because I'm trying to cram it all in. Normally I'm way off script all the time. Today I'm going to try to stay a little on script so at least you get the key points as we move on. A resilient individual is one who is willing to take calculated and necessary risk to capitalize on opportunity. Resilience is the ability to grow and thrive in the face of challenges and bounce back from adversity. Does that make sense? Does that sound what you would think a resilient person is? Yeah, okay, excellent. So we're going to move right on to that. So when we're talking about resilience, there's some things that go with resilience, and it's on your sheets, and we're going to jump right into the sheets that I handed out to you. Right at the top of the sheets, there are the, right where it says MRT Resource Center and competencies. These are the 6 competencies that we think that you should try to build upon using the skills we're going to talk about later so that you can be a more resilient person in your life. Those competencies are self-awareness, self-regulation, optimism, mental agility, strengths of character, and connection. And we'll talk a little bit more about those as we go, and then we'll get into the skills on how we can take these skills and build up to make those competencies a lot stronger. Okay? So, we'll get right to that. I'm going to talk first of all about some myths and some facts about resilience. All right, so I'll give you choices and you tell me which one you think is the fact. All right, never show emotion or regulate emotion. Which one's the fact? Regulate emotion, exactly. So it's not always going to be that person who is that never shows emotion when things are going and happening, and you're looking around, it's like, man, they're always on the straight and steady. You never see them sway one way or the other. Well, internally they might be, but it is okay to show emotion when you're trying to be resilient or trying to get through life. There's nothing wrong with that. That is a part of being resilient, because if you hold your emotions in all the time, they can be a huge stressor in your life that can cause other health problems, not to mention behavioral health problems with you and people around you. Here's another one. It's only about the individual, or it's about individuals and relationships. Is it only about the individual, or is it about the individuals and their relationships? We can close that door. So, individuals and relationships. All right, so we're going to close the door. Apparently we have some metal cutting going on in the background. So, all right, here's another one. Asking for help is a resilient strategy, or you must handle everything on your own. Asking for help, exactly. Know when to slow down or always act fast. Know when to slow down. This one's kind of tricky though, because sometimes when we're learning about a skill called real-time resilience, sometimes you do have to act fast. You don't have time to actually take your time, do some problem solving, figure out what's going on. Sometimes you have to act in the moment and do some real-time resilience. So that was kind of a little tricky one, but it is. Knowing when to slow down is the fact. You don't always have to go fast, but sometimes it does happen, okay? Always fully composed or not always pretty.
I'm going to go with that.
Not always pretty, exactly. Resiliency isn't always pretty. Some of the most resilient people I know have very unresilient moments in their life, right? So, and that's okay, because we're human and that's going to happen. So, I know a lot of people that are very resilient. I've been through combat with a lot of them. I've been through some stuff with their families with a lot of them. And I thought, man, that dude's just got it going on. He's always got it. But however, there are times when they have unresilient moments. But that's when they reach out, they ask for help, and where we all pull together as a team, we help them out, you know, or reach out to family and friends like that. So no, it's not always pretty. You always hear that part, oh, knows the grindstone. Well, sometimes that's the way it is. And you know, you just kind of muddle through it. Put your head down, crawl through the mud, get up. Hey, I made it. We're going to be all right, though. Dust off the dirt, clean the mud off, and you're good to go. All right? Either you have it, or you don't, or everyone can develop it. Everyone can develop it, exactly. And last one, rejuvenation fuels resilience. Resilient people never burn out. You think you can burn out? Exactly. Real quick on that. So I ran a program called the Recruit Sustainment Program years ago, where all these new soldiers from the list come in. And I ran it by myself. Almost 400 new teenage kids in that program getting ready to head to training while I was raising teenage kids. All right? So that's hard to do when you're by yourself. I had 2 contractors that work for me as well. What I found was that although I feel like I'm a pretty resilient person, I had all these young men and women that were relying on me to get them ready for training. So whenever things would go wrong in their life, I start taking that on, taking that burden on, because I want to save every one of them. They're young, you know. I want them to have the best and do the best that they can. Well, if you come to find out, you can get compassion fatigue from that, I found out. I did. I was suffering from compassion fatigue. Never even heard the term. I reached out for help because my job performance had dropped. When my job performance dropped, I knew something was wrong because I'm usually always on top of my game when it comes to my professional life. I'm like, something's not right, but I've been through enough training to realize I need to ask for help, so I did. And I went and saw somebody, we sat through a few sessions, come to find out that's what was going on. I had been through a lot, and I was taking on their worries, so I did. I burned out. But I've got some tools in my toolbox now to learn how to counteract that, and I no longer run that program, but I still deal with young people all the time. So we can. Resilient people can most definitely can burn out, but you gotta know when to hit the brakes and ask for that help. All right, so we're going to move right into one of the next topics, and like I said, we're going to keep this going fast. If you want to ask a question, feel free to. We might not get through all this, but I hope you leave here with at least a couple, 3 or 4 skills that you think are valuable to you. Okay, so self-regulation, all right? Let's talk about that just a little bit. That's one of the competencies as we're going through life. Let's say we're talking about you're in a tense situation, you're here at work, and your supervisors come to you and they're talking about something that you guys just don't see eye to eye on, right? So sometimes that can turn into a pretty intense situation. But this is one of those times that where you really want to self-regulate your emotions. You want to step back. You want to make sure you don't let your emotions get the best of you and have that professional conversation, go through and identify the key points. What are we exactly talking about? What are the issues and situations, and what can we come up with for true solutions? And then have it in a professional manner too when you're having those type of talks and conversations. Don't, bark at each other and stuff like that, because everybody deserves that respect when you're talking about it. And all it takes is one person on either side of that conversation to let their emotions go. And then next thing, you're both reacting to it, and it just gets out of control. So it is essential for resilience, being able to self-regulate your emotions. Has anybody ever been in that situation where you feel like your emotions are getting the best of you and stuff? Right? So, no, my wife has never been in that situation, especially at home when she's dealing with me. But once again, we're going to talk about some other tools, some skills in a minute that refer back to this competency of self-regulation. Okay? Optimism. Optimistic thinkers compared to pessimistic thinkers. Right? So, I tell you right now, we're going to do a little homework tonight for tomorrow, and we'll get to it in a little bit called the good stuff. And that focuses solely on optimism. And optimism creates hope. So I always like to say that hope and optimism are cousins to each other. One feeds off the other, So hope creates optimism, and optimism creates hope. So now as they're continually feeding off each other, things should get better. It is a known fact that optimistic thinkers, and once again we're going to rock from the list so we don't miss it, are happier and have less depression, are healthier, they have fewer illnesses, faster recovery, and live longer. They are seen as better leaders in their communities and at work. They have stronger relationships. I mean, think about that. If you both were in a relationship, or you're in a relationship with someone who's pessimistic all the time, do you think that could cause some stress on the relationship? And then you get right back to the regulation of your emotions, and it all starts to feed off of each other. But I know I would not want to be in a relationship where the other person's continuously pessimistic. It's okay to have the devil's advocates type conversations and stuff like that, like the what ifs and stuff of that nature. But if you live like that all the time, it just drowns your hope, and you never can get out of it. And it's exhausting, exactly. That is very exhausting. Irritating. It can be irritating to have that type of stuff going on in your life, and it just spirals from there down. So optimism. And once again, you're more successful at work and at school. All right, so that is optimism. So, mental agility. This one I always talk about all the time. I know Sherry and I talk about mental agility. Being able to change your thoughts or adjust your thoughts based on the situation and what's going on, so that allows you to be at your best. Okay, you got to be a flexible thinker. You need to be an accurate thinker, and you need to be thorough with your thought process. And the abbreviation for that is called FAT. F-A-T. All right. So flexibility, accurately, and thoroughly. All right. You need to be able to take other people's perspectives If you always have your blinders on and you never take the time to take other people's perspectives into play, that could cause you to miss out on something as an individual and as a group. And we're going to actually talk about that as one of the skills as well when we get into some of that stuff. And it actually talks about the word I want to use is confirmation bias. Who knows what that is? That's where you get your think tank together and you got a problem you need to solve and you put everybody in the room that has the exact same opinion. Yeah, think we're going to get the problem solved? Because guess what? Everybody's going to confirm your thoughts, you're going to confirm theirs, and everybody's going to walk out of there happy without a dang thing solved. Right? So that's kind of what confirmation bias is. And we'll talk about that in just a little bit as well. All right? Identify and understanding problems. Right? Kind of goes back to what I was saying. And be willing to try new strategies. All right? If you've never tried something and failed, then you haven't learned anything. So it's okay to try. Try new strategies that may or may not work. And if it doesn't work, then you go and you find out why it didn't work. Maybe the strategy was okay, but maybe part of that strategy needs to be adjusted so that the overall whole can be a success next time. So that's mental agility. I talk about that all the time. We were talking the other day, and I was talking about, forget where I was at training. I literally was sitting here listening to 4 or 5 conversations at one time. But it's something that comes with training, comes with time. And then I regurgitated back like 4 of the conversations in whole almost. And they're like, how do you do that? Well, I practice. And once again, it's a skill that I've practiced over time. Doesn't mean I'm some super crazy, superhuman that you see Stan Lee doing on television. But it's just something I practice because what I do for a living. I got to be able to listen to a lot of things at one time and try to at least comprehend something. So it's comes with practice. Here's a great one. Strengths of character. That's another competency that we can talk about. All right? Know your top character strengths and how to use them to overcome challenges and to meet goals. All right? Does that sound good? Know what your character strengths are, and also know what character strengths are in others so that you can meet your goals as well, or meet the team's goals or the company's goals. So it's very important to do that. And then always demonstrate I am strong attitude. Character strengths. All of us have them. You might not know what they are, so you have to do a little soul search and sit down and be honest with yourself and talk about what are my character strengths. Am I good with people? Am I good with numbers? Am I good with this? Am I not so good with this? Do I need to work on it? However, I'll caution you against some of the character strengths. It's called the shadow side, because some people use their best character strengths to get things, to get people or things to do for them, versus doing for the good or the whole. Does that make sense to you? They'll use their super strong character strength for their advantage for the wrong things. And like Rico Suave, the guy's good with the ladies, right? So he goes around, he talks. Well, that's great if you're wanting to have a nice social life and stuff like that. But if he's out there using that great character strength that he's able to talk to ladies and stuff to gain something from them that he shouldn't be, well, that's wrong. And that's the shadow side. He's using his character strength for the wrong reasons. All right, so does everybody understand that? It just kind of makes sense, right? Okay, good deal. All right, so, and then connection. This is the last competency. All right, connection. Build strong relationships, use positive and effective communication, develop empathy, not sympathy, empathy. And that's a key word that I use all the time with some of the people that I work with as up-and-coming leaders. You got to learn to have some empathy, especially as a supervisor. Not everybody's you, and not everybody came up the way that you did. So learn some empathy that will help you be a much more resilient person when you're dealing with other issues going on in someone else's life. And then be willing to ask for help and support others. So those are the competencies, real quick. All right? Any questions on competencies? I hate that I'm flying right through it, but we're going to get into some of these skills really quick. All right? So resilient people bounce. They don't break when faced with adversity or challenge. Everyone can enhance his or her resilience by developing MRT competencies. So Michael Jordan, one of the greatest basketball players of all time, right? Everybody knows who he is? All right, so did you know that he was cut from his high school basketball team and he put himself in his room and cried for days on end? However, he found some characters of strength, went out there and worked hard turned around, became Michael Jordan, right? I mean, greatest basketball player of all time until LeBron gets up there and does a few more things and passes him on some things. But that lets you know. I always like to share some of those stories. Thomas Edison is another one who they told him to, you need to give up on what you're doing, go do something you're good at. However, he didn't. He found a way to turn around and create the light bulb and all those good things, right? So Abe Lincoln married, divorced, I don't know how many times, lost children, told he shouldn't be in politics and stuff of that nature, became the president of the United States. So there's a lot of stuff that goes on in other people's lives, and when you see them, you only see the facade, basically, what's presented out to the public and into the public eye, and you don't realize some of these adversities they've been through. So, are we good on that? All right, anybody need a break? Am I killing you? We're good? Okay, so let's go right into the MRT skills. Every one of you have some of these sheets. We're going to start on the front page where it says goal setting. All right, some of these I'm going to fly right through because they kind of make sense. Everyone knows in goal setting that it's important to set goals, because if you don't know the road you're going to travel or know where you're going, any road's going to get you there, right? Has everybody heard that before? Right? If you don't know where you're going, any road's going to get you there. Setting goals helps you determine where you're going. Then you can choose the roads and the paths that you need to get there. So there's a lot of steps to goal setting. You can read off your sheet right there when you get time. I'm just going to blow right through that one because that's pretty common in everyday world. The next one is hunt the good stuff. Who's heard of negativity bias? All right, negativity bias. That's the human nature that we were born with, and you see it every day. We always seem to find ourselves talking about the negative. We are instantly drawn to the negative all the time. It could be something as simple as, oh, I got my coffee and the girl put the lid on where the spout is over the seam of the cup and it leaks a little bit. I had to turn the thing. Versus, hey, I got my coffee. It only cost me $1 at McDonald's. Yeah, I had to turn the lid, but I got the Irish cream in there and I like the Irish cream, so that's pretty good. And, and she got it to me in 5 seconds. All right, instead, I look for the good stuff versus the bad stuff to counteract that negativity bias. And we all do it, especially teenagers. Teenagers are horrible at it. Have you paid attention to their texting and their Snapchatting and stuff? You get some of it that's good, but most of it is bad, right? And they're always talking about this and talking about that. Oh, she's such a effing blah, 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 and seriously. So it's bad, but hunt the good stuff helps counteract that. And we're going to actually give you some homework on that today, and here's what I want you to do. From the time you leave today until the time we come back tomorrow, I want you to find 3 good things. Write them down that happened to you, all right? Or that you saw. Maybe it didn't happen to you, but it was a good thing, okay? And then I want you to go through the questions. Why this good thing happened, why this good thing and what it means to you. What can you do tomorrow to enable more of this good thing? And how did you or others contribute to the good thing? Okay, so that's important, and we'll talk about this a little bit tomorrow, more in depth once we get through these others. So, and we'll talk about how this helps reflect and how to keep a journal of this nature. I did it when I was deployed, and it worked out really well. So, and I used it coaching high school football, which I still coach.
Can you repeat the homework?
Yep, the homework. All right, so this is called Hunt the Good Stuff. And it's the second one on the sheet. And the instructions are right on the sheet as well.
Okay,
So it's called HTGS, Hunt the Good Stuff. And I'm going to take you right down that sheet in order. And that's exactly where I got that homework from. So, okay, we good there? Okay, ATC. This is the activating thoughts, the ATC model, activating thoughts and consequences. It's an ATC, that's okay. This is, you're more than welcome to talk on up here. I don't have a problem with that at all. So ATC, you're driving down the road, somebody cuts you off. What's the first thing that happens? You swear, you call them a name, throw them the finger, you're telling them leave them alone, right? So, here's what happened. And this is the part about resilience that's very, very important when we're talking about your thought process. You got cut off by someone. That was an activating event. Did it make you angry? Is that, no, not you? That's good. Most people it makes angry, right? And that's okay. Yeah, it made angry. You know why? He all of a sudden felt like he was trespassed on. You just cut me off, you're in my space now. You just trespassed. And usually what happens when you get trespassed on, you get angry. All right, so now, what made him angry? That he got cut off.
Sign of aggression, maybe, or something.
It wasn't that he got cut off. It was his thought process about getting cut off. It's about your thought control. He got cut off. He had a physical and emotional response. Two different types of responses. You're going to have some type of physiological and some type of emotional response. And it's not because he was cut off. It's because his thought process that he was cut off.
Was that before or
So-
after the lady put the foot on the ground?
And that was exactly, so his day's just getting worse, right? His day's just getting worse. So now he's got the coffee thing going on, he got cut off. But that's what, we're gonna talk about that a little bit more tomorrow as well, about being able to control your thoughts and regulate your responses and so forth. So I know we're running low on time, but that's the ATC model. You can read about it more on your sheets and so forth, but that's a pretty good one to understand because we can throw a lot of scenarios at you and you're looking at it, oh, this is why that happened. It always goes back to how you thought about it. On my way here, I was talking to my daughter on the phone, and there was a guy sitting in front of me at that new intersection where the bridge is, or on exit 80. He did not pull up to the stop line. And if you haven't been where the ones that curve, if you don't pull up to that stop line, the ones that take you left off one of the bridges, that light will never turn green. I don't care if you're this far away from it, that light is not going to turn green. So I've been there before. I've actually gotten out and asked the man to move up. Well, that happened to me today. I was behind a big rig. I didn't get frustrated. I was on the phone with her. I said, yeah, old boy's not pulled up far enough. I didn't let it get to me. I needed to be here, but I knew I had time because I planned properly. But I controlled my emotions. I controlled my thoughts about it and kind of made fun. You know, I don't understand why he doesn't read the big sign that says stop here with the big black arrow pointing to the big white line. You know, so we had a good conversation about it, and I let my daughter actually vent a little about the situation that had happened to her, very similar, just this morning as well. So now I made a connection with my daughter, we shared a moment, and things were good. And he finally moved up, and the light turned green. So but that goes back to my thoughts and how I controlled my thoughts so I had the most optimal response, both physiologically and emotionally. Okay. So, I know we're running out of time, and it's 12:30, so I don't want to keep you much longer. We'll finish up the second half of this tomorrow, and we'll go through the homework as well, and we'll go get through some of these because there's some good stuff for tomorrow. Any questions on today? So feel free when you're at home tonight to even look up some of these terms and stuff, and look up some videos for them as well. Emotional control, learn how to, energy management, that's a good one. Look up Talladega Nights, Ricky Bobby,
Oh, gosh.
Cougar in the Car. Find that scene, and you want to see about energy management and controlling, read what it says right there, and look up that scene alone.
Big Bobby.
And Ricky Bobby trying to get in that car with his daddy, telling him to control his emotions, manage himself, breathe right and stuff. And that kind of just in a nutshell is energy management. So, all right, once again, thank you. I'll see you guys tomorrow.
Great.
Thank you. Yeah, thank you. I gotta go focus on the next one.
Welcome back, everybody. Thank you for coming today. Once again, my name is Mark Ridgway. We're going to continue with our resilience program. Glad to be here. One of the things I didn't do yesterday was explain some of the reasons why we want to talk about resilience and being resilient in our lives is to help counteract some further issues for mental health issues, behavioral health issues that could come down the road if you are not a resilient person. Things such as being, it's okay, come on in, more the merrier. So, talking about why do we want to be resilient? some things that we can counteract being resilient, such as turning toward bad things such as drugs and alcohol, behavioral health issues such as anger management, and things of that nature, and all the way to the point of even suicide ideation. So sometimes, like I said, I'm from Georgia, big words escape me sometimes. But not that this is like a suicide awareness thing, but the theory is that if you're a more resilient person, that you will make better choices in your life versus turning away and going toward those other paths and stuff. And especially for people that are at risk. And I always like to tie in the reason why this is so important to me. So I am an at-risk person. I grew up in a home that was separated. Most of the men in my family have killed themselves. This is my dad, my uncle, my cousin, and a few others, and others have died for self-inflicted type things such as too much alcohol and smoking and stuff of that nature. Of course, we all know that's bad in itself, but in excess, you know it's going to kill you at some point. You know, one of my grandfathers drank himself to death and stuff of that nature. And then, of course, with what I have done for a living most of my life, being a soldier and things of that nature, and dealing with young people and having been in combat, I am an at-risk person. So I make conscious choices to try to be more resilient in my life, because the last thing I want to do is to have to travel down one of those roads, and because that's a whole nother world, and those are hard to come back from once you start making that travel. So that's kind of one reason why we develop programs talking about resilience, trying to get ahead of the game. And once I said this, it's not designed to take the place of those kind of talks and conversations about suicide awareness and drug and alcohol abuse and behavioral health issues, but we use it to try to get ahead of the game, so we get people thinking differently at an earlier stage in their lives, and to counteract that. So that's why it's important to me. So this is why I'm glad to be here. So yesterday we were flying through really fast. We were going through some of the skills. I gave you guys some homework. I'm going to zip through some of the skills today. We're actually going to skip some of them so that we can touch on the ones that I can explain more in depth. So we're going to go through, if you have your sheets from yesterday with you, go ahead and take those out. We're going to get to the homework at the end of today and so forth. So what I wanted to do was to continue down the skills, and if you don't have one, we'll go through the skills. We're going to look down to energy management. That's the next skill I want to touch on. We finished with the ATC method yesterday. Energy management, that's pretty self-explanatory. It's all those things where you hear your breathing exercises, counting backward, 1, 2, 3, and yada yada, stuff like that. So the cool thing was I actually had to have my annual behavioral health interview this morning, because I'm in a position of significant trust and authority where I deal with young people all the time, and every year we have to have an interview with a behavioral health specialist to make sure that we're good to go. And they had this neat new little gadget on her desk today. I was sitting there and I took it. It's an MP3 player. It's called Chill Drills. And it's all about energy management. And there's this lady's voice on there. I listened to it when I went home and changed just now. And I was listening to it when I was changing. And it's all about breathing techniques and all that stuff that we talk about in our program called Energy Management. So I told my wife that I'm going to do some research and see who the civilian company is that produces that. Maybe that's something that we could introduce here to the wellness team to when you guys do those giveaways and stuff like that. A little Chill Drill MP3 players, got headphones, it's pretty neat. So that's pretty self-explanatory, so I'm not going to go into too much depth on energy management. And we're going to skip all the way down to putting it into perspective. Avoiding thinking traps and detecting icebergs are really, really hard to explain in such a short amount of time. So just take a read over that for me if you don't mind. And then problem solving, anybody that's been in any type of professional setting understands problem solving to a certain extent. So I'm not going to put you through that as well. But putting it into perspective, this is a huge thing, especially if you're dealing with the millennial generation at your home right now or something of that nature, because they never seem to be able to put it into perspective. Everything's a catastrophe. Right? Everything is a catastrophe. However, that is very taxing and very draining. Being able to step back, take your time, and putting it into perspective. And it's really easy to do when you're dealing with something. One, you want to be able to deal with what's in your range to deal with. Anything outside of that circle, outside of that target that you can't change or that you have no control over, don't worry about it because you have no control over it. So what you can control is the things that you need to put into perspective. And the way that skill really works is you have a situation that happens and it's like, okay, this is happening. What's the worst case scenario that can happen, or what's the best case scenario to happen? And you use a set of questions. So you're working with someone on this usually, or with yourself asking, all right, this happened, all right, then what happens? And you continue to ask, and you tell them to go down the worst case scenario path. And then you go, okay, stop. Now let's talk about best case scenario. Oh, well, this could happen. Then what happens? You ask them, then what happened? And they work their way into the greatest case scenario of all time. All of a sudden, they're the pilot of a space shuttle somewhere landing on Venus. I don't know. But it goes crazy. And what really happens is the truth is somewhere in the middle. And that's what you look for when you're trying to put it into perspective. Is this extreme to the right and extreme to the left, and we want to come back to the middle somewhere. Only if we could get our politicians to do that, that would be great, right? So, but that's what it is, putting it into perspective in a nutshell. Mental games, we're going to skip past that. We're going to go to real-time resilience, which my wife this morning didn't realize that she was trying to exercise because she hasn't been taught the skill yet. She shot me an email, says, I was trying to hunt the good stuff and what this guy was slamming on his brakes at 40 miles per hour in a 50 mile per hour zone. That's a real-time resilience skill. Now we're going to learn what that is. This is what happens in the heat of the moment. Remember yesterday when we talked about the activating events, your thoughts and the consequences? This is one of those situations, and being able to exercise that model that quick. In the heat of the moment, this is what happens, okay? So, something happened, this is what you thought about it, this is what happened. Was your response an optimal response? This comes with practice, sometimes not so much. So I hope she didn't send me the email while she was driving, because then we'll have another conversation later. So, but that's what that is. And that's where it's that simple. But it does take practice to become quick at it. So you have to, sometimes it's a slow process and it's an ugly process, but if something happens and you have time to stop and go, okay, seriously, let me think about this because I know I want an optimal response to this, or just stay on top of my game. And it can be something as menial as, in my eyes it's menial, but in her eyes it wasn't, and that's okay because we have different perspectives. But it could be something very, very life-threatening and stuff of that nature. And I'll show you, we had that example, and I will share my example. So, 2012, I'm at MRT training, Master Resilience Trainer training. So we're going through, and you spend the whole first week, 40 hours of just learning, right? Then your second week, you spend 40 hours of instructing. So everybody that's there, we rotate through all these skills and competencies and stuff, and we get blocks. So I had on day 2 or 3, I can't remember which one it was, of the second week, real-time resilience. That was my block of instruction. So, okay, so I did my homework at night, make sure we were good to go. So, we go through the day, and I was like the 3rd or 4th instructor of the day. I can't exactly remember what number I was. But we took a break right before my class. I'm like, oh good, I can get some water, go to the bathroom, yada yada. Well, the class leader, which we rotate through each day, someone else was in charge of the class, come back through and said, hey, we're taking a collection for the maintenance guy here, the janitor, the facility manager, whatever. He was an older gentleman, and this was his only job, it was a retirement job. He kept the place spotless, right? And kept everything running, and it's like, yeah, what's going on? He goes, well, his daughter got killed. Just yesterday, dude don't have any money. No money to fly to California from Battle Creek, Michigan, where I was at, to get home. So, now, I'm like, sure, yeah, I'm gonna throw some money in the pot. And I whipped out whatever I had in my pocket. And I'm going to tell you it's probably over $100 at the time. So I threw it all in there and moved on. So what the backstory to that is that no one knew, except for one person in that class, because he traveled there with me, was that in 2007, my oldest daughter was killed. So, but I got a class to teach, right? So I'm like, man, I'm inside, I'm like, you know, this is not good. But once again, I had practiced this skill so much prior to that happening that I was able to stand up there and go, all right, boom, boom, boom. I taught my class and I got through it. That doesn't mean I didn't go to my room later, right? And lost it, kicking stuff, you know, and just let it all out and go, but that's okay. But that's how extreme it could get, because you never know what's going to happen, right? Or something like today. So it does happen. It takes a lot of practice, even today. But that's how, another reason why it's important to me to do this class for you guys. So that's real-time resilience. Takes a lot of practice, and it's not always going to be accurate. Sometimes you find out that your response, though you thought was over the top, might have been the right response, though. Sometimes you go back and you have to reevaluate what you did and go, all right, yeah, I might have seemed over the top, but you know what? That response was actually warranted for that situation. So there's no right or wrong, as long as you realize that you're okay with it and stuff. But if it's detrimental and realize it becomes a pattern, you really need to step back and go, okay, I'm always responding this way to this particular situation, and I shouldn't, because all I'm doing is creating more chaos or more stress or anything of that in your life. So always reevaluate, do an assessment afterward, okay? So, but try to practice real-time resilience when that one thing happens and you're like, oh, our soul will just kick you or smack you or say bad words or whatever, and go, no, I'm going to think this through real quick, and eventually it does become quicker. And the more you practice it, the quicker it gets. So that is real-time resilience in a nutshell. So we talked about yesterday about strengths and character a little bit already, being able to identify your character strengths and strengths in others, and to use those to build better resilience amongst yourself, your family, and your team. So I'm not going to touch on that too much again today. We're going to flip on over to assertive communication and effective praise and active constructive responses. So, effective praise. Well, assertive communication. Everybody knows about communication and having assertive communication. One, you got to have a message. All right, you got to have a sender, you got to have a receiver, and you got to have feedback. So, what you're doing there is pretty cut and dry right here, using the ideal method to make sure you're communicating assertively so that you're getting things done. It's just not menial, you're just treading water, just spouting words back and forth, the typing back and forth, and not getting anything done. So I'm not going to go into too much depth on that. But I do want to talk about effective praise and active constructive responding, because you guys deal with this on a daily basis, all right? So here's the situation. Mark comes walking up to you and says, I just bought a brand new truck. This is my baby. I love this truck so much. No different than someone coming up and going, oh, we just had a granddaughter born, and she is great. This is my baby, you know. And same in the sense to me, and because I have a truck and granddaughters, they are separate. But to me, when I bought my truck, I was really excited about it. I wanted to tell somebody. So what I want to know is, how do you respond to that? All right? Are you a joy thief? Are you a conversation killer? Are you what's another one? A joy multiplier? Or are you a conversation hijacker? Right? So this is spelled out here. So here's the thing with this. Between those four things right there, it talks about it on the sheet about what's going on. So the big thing is context, where this conversation is taking place, because sometimes you actually don't have time to have that conversation with someone coming up to you. But the one thing I want you to take away from that, whether you like the person, love the person, have no contact with that person, some reason or another, they chose you out of everybody around to come tell that story to. Whether it was buying a truck, buying a candy bar, cutting the lawn with their new whatever. They chose you as the individual they wanted to share that with. So somewhere in their mind and their heart, you're the person that they wanted to share it with. Now you, like I said, you might not even like the person. However, at that point it's not about you, it's about them. So with that understanding, are you going to be one of those four? Which one of the four are you going to be? Are you going to help them get, multiply that joy by asking them those good questions? Going, oh really? Yeah, what color is your truck? Yeah, is it diesel, is it gas? All those crazy questions to get them to continue to enjoy that moment, to relive them purchasing that new vehicle or having that baby or whatever it is going to do. Or are you going to go, oh, well, we had, the person comes up to you, Mark says, hey, you know, I have a granddaughter. Oh, I have a granddaughter too. She is so gorgeous and blah, 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 blah. You just stole every bit of the joy from that person. All they got to say was, we had a new granddaughter. And all of a sudden, it's all about you and your granddaughter and why. How many people have been involved in that? Or seen it? I deal with it. My mother is one of the worst ones about that. And my wife can attest to that. We will start talking about something. We usually call her on a Saturday when we're driving in the truck because it's echoed throughout the truck. I got the hands-free thing. And as soon as I say one thing about something we're doing, phew, off it goes. She's done taken away. However, I'm used to it now. I'm aware it's going to happen, so I kind of prep my conversations to go where I want them to go. And so, in understanding that for about 5 or 10 minutes during this drive, I'm not going to get to say a word and stuff, and I deal with it. But that's really what this block of the skill is about. Is what kind of listener are you? Like I said though, there's that moment in time where, you know, if you're working over in the warehouse and you've got a lot of product that's coming down the line or whatever, somebody wants to share something, you go, hey, you know what, Jim? I really, really want to hear this. And I want to make sure that I get your whole story, and I don't want to miss anything and stuff. Right now is not a good time though, because I've really got to get this product out. So right after lunch, I got about 5 minutes. Are you going to be available? Come tell me then, and because it sounds really neat or something of that nature, so that they don't feel like you totally just dismissed them and stuff of that nature. Suffer through it if you have to, or enjoy it, one or the other. But suffer through it, let them enjoy the fact that they chose you to share it with, and then move on about your day, and that wasn't the end of the world. All right? So that's what that part of that is really about. That simple. That simple. So just decide who you are, and also being able to recognize it in others so you can exercise some of that real-time resilience. And when you tell your story, like, they just stole my joy. Or they just like, oh, hey, that's great, have a good day, and you walk off. They just killed the whole conversation, didn't offer you any other chance to come back and tell them, so you can exercise that and start some information management. You know, and then move on. So there's all kinds of ways to exercise this. So I gave you guys some homework last night. I want to get back to that, called Hunt the Good Stuff. How many people that were here yesterday did their homework? Yeah. Oh, she got it done in class when she got here. I'm pretty sure my wife just told me that ain't happening. So, but that's okay. So Hunt the Good Stuff. Once again, what is Hunt the Good Stuff designed to do? Make you focus on positive things throughout your day. And what does it create? Who remembers? I mean, because so it's supposed to create the cousin of hope and optimism. Exactly. All right, so hope and optimism. So Hunt the Good Stuff. That is exactly what it is. And I'm going to go off some of my notes that I wrote down that I really wanted to touch on when we're talking about Hunt the Good Stuff. So, and I made just some of my handwritten notes and so forth. The one thing we want to create is, of course, positive emotions and the optimism that we've talked about. And we want to get you in the create an attitude of gratitude, because that's another thing that Hunt the Good Stuff does. It creates an attitude of gratitude because you have all this hope and optimism. Now, we're not saying ignore the bad things in life. This is not what we're talking about. This is where we're talking about trying to balance it out a little bit. Because bad things are going to happen, you can't just ignore those. Those things need to be addressed, or you're going to hear it whether it needs to be addressed or not. But you don't want it to get to the point where it's all up here, all bad, and all good just down here. So we're trying to balance the scales is all we're trying to do. Not trying to get you to go blind to the bad things that are going on. Just balance the scales a little bit. And the thing about this is it's not something that you just can do one day and call it good. Say, hey, I've done good stuff and I'm good. I'm good for a week. This is something that we found out. If you do it every day for 5 or 6 minutes, take the time to hunt the good things that happened to you that day and actually write it down. And I'll explain to you why we want you to write it down as well. If you do this for a month, our studies have shown that those people that actually truly did it for a month started having a better lifestyle, started having a better outlook on life. They had more gratitude toward other people. They were just becoming more resilient by hunting the good stuff. Now, when you did those 3 things, I also told you to answer the questions that go with that. Why is this good to you? How can you recreate this? Who was involved in it and how did they help do that as well, right? So who remembered or growing up had a grandmother or a grandfather that said, hey, you should count your blessings. You should count your blessings, right? And everything. Well, there's a study that was done in 2002 of grade school children who actually count their blessings every night when they went to bed and count their blessings. Come to find out, those particular kids had a better social life at school. They also were academically stronger and then also socially better outside of school as well. And they did this between, I can't remember, 2002 and 2004 they did this. And these are grade school kids, but however, this is a situation where science is finally catching up with grandma. Grandma and grandpa had it right all this time. And so now science is proving that, hey, yeah, they were right. So it's finally caught up, and that's why it's important. And this is the same thing. They're counting their blessings. Basically what they're doing is that thank you for mom, thank you for dad, thank you for my school teachers. So they're actually, in a subconscious way, pulling in all the good things that's happening to them in their lives throughout the day. So that is why we created Hunt the Good Stuff. So with that being said, what I would like to do is who would be willing to share any of their Hunt the Good Stuff? Anybody? Want to share one? Yeah? All right. I'm going to call on people. There's my sheet. There's my sheet. So, Kim?
Yeah, sure.
Okay, so Kim will share one of her Hunt the Good Stuff.
I went for a nice walk at the end of the day with my dogs.
Went for a nice walk at the end of their day with her dogs. All right, so why did this good thing happen? Why did this happen?
Why? I think because I needed it. I needed to be outside and just have some peace and quiet.
All right, get you some peace and some quiet,
Cool
okay?
air.
And now, why does this mean so much to you?
I think because I'm an outdoors person and I recognize that nature brings me peace.
All right, so you have a connection with nature and it brings you peace. Now, you went with your daughter?
Dogs.
Dogs, your dogs, all right. I thought you said your dogs and your daughter, but somehow I missed that. So you have a connection to nature that makes you feel peaceful, okay? Excellent. And what can you do tomorrow to enable more of this good thing to happen? Or today even?
I think make an active effort to take them out more and just kind of plan ahead and make sure that it happens more often.
Yeah, most definitely. And of course, your dogs, and dogs are dogs, so they loved it. They any chance they get a chance to go outside and just run around, it doesn't matter when they're hunting something,
Yep.
and it's always good. So when they go out, okay. And of course, what way did you contribute to this or others? Of course, by doing it,
Right.
you contributed to that. So that's very good. That's good. Hunt the good stuff. Anybody else got one they want to share? That's good.
When I got home last night, my daughter had prepared dinner. And that's the thing, because growing up, I had 4 kids, and I was an at-home mom for like forever. And I always liked when someone walked in, the house smelled good. So she's home this summer, she's on college break. She had dinner all prepared, and for like 1,000 reasons, I like it.
Right, and for all the same questions I just asked too, and that creates all kinds of reasons of why it was a good thing for you, connection with your family, and brings back memories of when.
It's just happy, it stands for
Right.
happy.
It stands for happy, and and she made a good point that I like to bring up. It actually took her back to another time when she remembered walking into houses and it smelling good when she walked in because of the food that's being cooked. I remember those days down on our family's farm in Georgia, of walking into my grandmother's house, into the farmhouse, and smelling what she was cooking when we had the fat back going on the griddle, the biscuits were in the oven. I mean, it was salt pork, so we call it fat back. But that's good stuff. Homemade apple pies. She always made me these apple turnovers. Exactly. So those are things. Now here's why we write it down. And I asked you to write it down. What I'd like for you to do from here on out is create a journal. All right? Every day, at the end of the day, get a notebook. Write that down. Here's why. You can reflect on it later. There's one day you're going to come home one day and you're going to flip that open, and you might not get to that blank page right off the bat, and you'll see one of those that you wrote down 3 years ago or maybe 4 months ago, and it will bring you back to that day and time. and why it was so different. So does that make sense? That's why we like to keep it in a journal. A lot of my friends do this, and it does work. And it also, once again, helps you relive that good thing over and over and over, and it never goes away. So I used this coaching high school football. Back in 2008, maybe, when I took over the freshman team at Mount Ararat High School, I had 13 new players. One never played football. This is going to be great, right? One. They were, it is, for me it was great. So they didn't have any bad habits, however they could not dress themselves. So it was pretty rough at first, spent the first 2 weeks trying to teach them how to dress themselves. But however, one of the things that I had started with the freshman team the year before, and I did with this team as well, was we didn't win many games back then at Mount Ararat, and everybody was negative. Always. I always heard at practice, oh, this sucked, that sucked at school, blah, blah, blah. Jeff did this, Greg did that. It's just horrible. My girlfriend hates me. So I implemented Hunt the Good Stuff one day at the end of practice. And every single player had to come to football practice the next day. And after we did our warm-ups, I'd bring them into a huddle, and I would randomly pick. Tell me. And they didn't have an option like you guys did today of not sharing. You were going to share. But what happened was, as they started, and of course, teenage boys, so I'm like, hey, PG-13 guys. I don't need none of this R-rated stuff or XXX stuff. It's PG-13. And because I might need to talk to your parents about this. But they started doing that. Well, here's what happened with that particular team. It became a competition in practice to try to one-up the other one with a better good thing, to the point where they were making good things happen in their lives and trying to be the winner of this game that they created, when I was just trying to get them to have more hope and optimism that they were going to be fine. So we won a couple of games that year as freshmen. However, that freshman team was the senior team that took the Mount Ararat to the playoffs for the first time in like 12 years or something of that nature. So they continued that up through and had success at the varsity level as seniors, and took their team to the playoffs and won a playoff game. And it was good for them. So I try to look back and say, how did that help? And I believe that really helped. They were a very positive football team, and no matter how bad it got, they always thought they were going to win. So that's basically hunting good stuff. And that is all I'm going to share with you guys. We're right at the point of calling it a day. Does anyone have any questions about anything that we've talked about over the last 2 days? So,
I just wondered, do you have anything like online that we can go? I was trying to share everything with my husband last night. A lot of things that you said he lives by, and especially like what's the worst that could happen. We're always saying that to the kids. But there's a lot of things that I didn't know how to, do you have anything in place?
This particular stuff that I shared with you today is not available to the general public. However, Pennsylvania University, if you go to Pennsylvania University's website and just type in resilience and everything, they have some stuff on their website, and they also, if I remember correctly, list some of where some of the studies were done and stuff of that nature from Dr. Emmons and a few others that helped contribute to this. But it is available to the public, but just not through the websites that I actually have control of and so forth. So, but yeah, Pennsylvania University, and I'll do some research as well to see if I can find it somewhere else. Honestly, I've never had to look for it elsewhere because it's always emailed to me. And then if I can find some things for you, I'll make sure Sherry has it, and we'll get it to you. All right. Well, all right, great. Thank you all for coming. Thank you for inviting me.
Thank you very, very much. Very, very interesting. I think a couple people may know.
I was just gonna ask if everybody.
Yeah, make sure everybody signs so you
Yeah.
get credit.
I did. Oh, but